What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Just a Guy on My Lunch Break, where we talk about kratom, life, substance use, substance abuse, all things surrounding, judgment-free zone, just like Planet Fitness. You're not going to come on here on this platform and everybody's going to point fingers at you and, oh, well, your habits are bad. You should be doing this, and you should do exactly what I did 6 months ago when I was in a similar situation, even though you're a completely different person in a completely different set of circumstances than me. You don't get that on here. We've had a couple of outliers here and there since the beginning of the channel, but I try to flush that stuff out as quickly as possible. You guys know me. So yeah, I'm at 10 grams, just as it says in the title. I'm sure I'll include that in the title. Took only 10 grams of kratom yesterday. Honestly, that was kind of the mark that I was wanting to get to for now. You know, when I started to taper about a month ago, maybe a little more than a month ago now. Man, I've got so much going on in my life and just living my life from day to day, that hamster wheel, that grind. Then I've gotten a new job. I've had doctor's visits, doctor's checkups. There's so many things going on up here in this dome that I don't know exactly how long I've been tapering now. But let's just say a couple of months ago, I was easily consuming 40 to 50 grams of kratom per day. Most days. Right? And that's certainly what I was dependent on. To the point where when I went to immediately drop and start to taper, you know, I dropped somewhere within the range of mid-20s to, 24, 25 grams to around 30, something like that. I felt like I could make that cut from 40 to 50 relatively easily without too much issue. I wasn't wrong there. I was able to make that initial cut pretty easily, not without some discomfort. Especially at night. I definitely had a lot of the restlessness and stuff like that those first few nights that I was coming off of the 40 to 50 grams. But outside of that, just continuing to chip away at it, and trying to make sure I talked about yesterday, linear versus non-linear tapering, and I've tried my best to keep it kind of as linear as possible, instead of going ham on the weekends and going on a couple of day bender. I've tried for the most part not to do that. I have, gone out of the confines of, whatever my taper was down to. I have done that a couple of times and I've talked about it on here. But I've been good each time about doing that for a couple of days, getting it out of my system or in my system, whichever you want to call it, but then not living there and then jumping right back into the taper. So I have been pretty good about that, which is the reason that I'm down to the 10 grams at this point. And another hit for the Conolidine. Okay. I want to bring that up again. I'm actually getting close to the bottom of mine. Because when I'm getting down to these, 15, 14, then 13, then 11, then 12, I'm trying to do it pretty aggressively as well, right? I'm not the type of person that likes to be hanging off of a cliff for 6 months. I just don't. That's a long period of my life to be committing to some taper, right? I'm one of those people that I'm okay with being patient and trying to remain disciplined, but at the same time, I don't want it to go on forever. I just don't. If I'm going to taper, and if I have a bottom line goal that I'm looking to get to, whether that be, okay, now I'm down to 10 grams. I feel pretty comfortable with that. That's a pretty minimalistic amount. I don't think that sort of amount is going to be really bad for me, that physically, or that bad for my guts, or, my body, my digestive system shouldn't have too much trouble processing a 10 measly grams of kratom every day, right? If you're a healthy individual, and I start having those sort of conversations with myself. Or if you're looking to completely come off, if you're one of those people that like, man, kratom just kicks my ass in every sense of the word. I can't be happy on it. And I've shown myself that over and over and over. So it seems like I'm going to be one of those people that just needs to come completely off of it. And you know, and I, as a person who's still on it, I do believe that if you eventually, ultimately get completely off of it, and then do the hard part, which is staying off of it, you know, for more than a month, more than 2 months, more than 6 months, or a year. And when you start getting into those sort of time frames and you're disciplined enough to tell yourself no when it comes to taking it again, I do feel like you can get to a point where you're just like, damn, goodbye, Kratom. You know, I'm so glad to be off of it. I'm so glad to be free of it. Because I will tell you now, one thing I can say, there have been a couple of times, you know, a lot of it, or at least one time has been while I've done this channel, where I stayed off for almost 30 days one time, and then I used kind of on and off for a couple of weeks, and then I came off again before I got myself too dependent upon it again. And then I was off for like 40 days or some crazy shit like that. Then I started taking again, kind of willy-nilly. Next thing you know, because we know this thing is progressive, next thing you know, I'm taking it again every day. And not only that, I've doubled down, and I've started taking, you know, powder by the scoops at this point, when I actually had never done that before, right? This is a new wrinkle in my addiction, right? Because the first few years that I was using Kratom, you know, I was never taking any more than probably 10 grams a day. I was always under 10 grams a day, and I did that for probably the first couple of years that I used Kratom. Then I effed around and found out about the extracts. I fucked around and found out. I wish I hadn't have fucked around and found out, because then wasn't long after that where I got to the point where my tolerance started being really high. And then to accommodate that tolerance, you know, and if I wanted to look to come down or get off of the extracts, to accommodate that tolerance that I had built up, I found myself having to take large amounts of the powder, right? Because if you're taking, you know, 2, 3 like MIT 45 Kratom extracts a day, your tolerance is going to be way the fuck up here, right? I mean, this is your tolerance, way up here. And when you go to stop taking something like the MITs, especially if you're taking more than 1 a day, more than 2 a day, what you will find is that your body has a hard time adjusting to finding that exact amount of metrogenine alkaloid that was getting you high with the MIT. So you may come off of the MITs, and in order to not have severe withdrawals, you may have to swallow 30, 40 grams of Kratom powder every day. You know, and for a lot of us, we weren't used to that. I was not used to that. Before I found the extracts, my use of Kratom was capsules only. I never messed with the powder. I only was taking capsules, and I would only take, you know, somewhere at my highest, I might take 15, 16 capsules a day. That was a lot for me. You know, I felt like that was a lot. Looking back on it now, I'm like, damn, that actually wasn't that much in comparison. You know, I was taking, for the first couple of years, if I took 8 grams a day, that was a heavy day for me. That had me looking in the mirror, you know, in my bathroom like, damn, this shit's going downhill again. This shit's going to a place I don't want it to go. You know, those were my thoughts if I swallowed 16 Kratom capsules in one day. Looking back on it now and what I know now, I'm like, damn, that actually wasn't that much in comparison. Because I got to a point where I was swallowing the equivalent of 80, 90 capsules a day. I mean, I wasn't at that time taking the capsules, but the powder that I was actually consuming, I was consuming the amount of powder that you would find in 80 500 milligram capsules, or 90 500 milligram capsules. I mean, just a lot. That's a lot of Kratom, bro. That's a lot of Kratom. You know, and I'm not in the clear. 10 grams, that's a much more modest, you know, moderate amount. I'm okay with that for now. You know, and I start a new job in a week and a half, so I don't want to be in complete full withdrawal when that happens. But I will say I am glad that I've gotten myself down to this lower amount like this as I go to start this new job, so I'm not just in this, you know, whole roller coaster type thing. With the experience I have with Kratom, 10 grams is an amount that, you know, I'm probably a short 2 weeks off of just getting completely off of it. If I can keep myself right at this amount, okay? And I don't allow myself to go back up to those heavy doses again, which I don't plan on doing that. I don't plan on doing that. It's too hard to stop, too hard to come down from. And I also believe that, you know, I believe it's not good for you internally, you know, your digestive tract. You know, physically, a human is not made to process through that large amount of plant material on a daily basis, right? So that's also one of the reasons that I won't be going back there. But the Conolidine, not to be confused with clonidine, that's happened several times on here, because Conolidine is kind of a new, it's new to the rodeo. You know, it's not something that people know a lot about, people have heard a lot about. So a lot of times when people hear it, they think you're mispronouncing the more popular clonidine, right? Which is like a blood pressure prescription that doctors also can prescribe to help with withdrawals, okay? I'm not sure exactly scientifically or medically what the mechanism is that actually helps with withdrawal from that blood pressure medication of clonidine, but I'm not talking about clonidine. This is called Conolidine, Conolidine, Conolidine. And this is available without prescription. Unfortunately, is a little bit expensive at this moment. I got a vial about this big. It's probably about that big around. I'm not sure exactly. It's got a few ounces in it maybe. But it's some pretty potent stuff. But that little bitty container that is about this big from a place called GDR Labs, that shit was like $60. I was like, oh, damn. You know, I had a guy who is a fan of the channel. He actually helped me out. He actually bought it for me. He was like, hey, I want you to try this, you know, and he actually bought it for me, and it was shipped to my house. So thanks again for that. But the Conolidine really does help with the nighttime. The Conolidine, in my experience, is not something you would want to use during the day. Not only that, it's very expensive, like I already said. So it's one of those things, in a vial this big, if you're using it throughout the day and at night, you're going to rip right through that in a week's time. And the shit's $60 a pop. So you don't want to be paying that sort of money on top of your Kratom money, because you're probably still buying Kratom and tapering from it so you can avoid the withdrawals, okay? So I would not recommend using it during the day. I use other things like agmatine seem to help. One thing I have been doing recently is taking ashwagandha gummies. It's got a couple of more things in it besides just the ashwagandha, but the ashwagandha is one of those things, when you look it up, it seems like most sources say that it takes, you know, a few weeks, four weeks, maybe even up to 12 weeks to actually really start feeling the effects of ashwagandha. But you never know, man, because I swear my wife took a couple of those gummies one night, those ashwagandha gummies. You can get these at your local grocery store or pharmacy or whatever. You pick them up right off the shelf. And she swore that she took those things and it kept her awake that night. The first night. Very first time she's ever taken them. But when you look online, oh, it takes 12 weeks for you to really start feeling effects of it. And she swore to me that those ashwagandha gummies kept her up the night that she took them. Who knows? Could have been something else. You know, it could have been something that interacted with something else she had taken. If she had a glass of wine that night or something, I don't know. I've not noticed, being kept awake by the ashwagandha. I certainly have not noticed that. But so I'll take stuff like the agmatine, the ashwagandha during the day. Definitely eat healthy. I eat a fair amount of fruits. I'll eat like a yogurt, walnuts, a little thing of oatmeal. I'll do stuff like this, stuff that's got good calories and good carbs, for a person that exercises. You don't want to eat a high carb diet, but carbs are good. There's nothing wrong with carbs if they're high quality carbs, and if you're a person who then exercises and burns that energy, turns around and burns the energy, right? There's nothing wrong with stuff like that. And so I'll eat stuff like that, and a banana, and then I make sure I drink a ton of water every day. All these things together, if you're doing a slow taper, I don't really have a lot of adverse interactions during the day. I just don't. I'm usually pretty good during the day. Now, if you start dropping, 6 grams at a time, if you go to bed on Monday taking 12 grams per day, you wake up on Tuesday and have the bright idea, well, I'm just going to go down to 4 grams today. You're going to get about halfway through the day and you're going to be like, damn, I don't feel that good. I don't have any energy. And my mood's pretty low. You're going to experience some of that if you do a significant drop in that way. That's the whole reason and the whole purpose for the slow taper. You find yourself on a certain amount. If it's that 12 grams that we were just talking about, you stay on that for a few days. Then you drop it down gradually to 11.5 or maybe 11, depending on what your tolerance level is for the discomfort, right? And if you do it slowly and methodically like that, piece by piece by piece, step by step by step, slowly, little bit at a time, if you do it that way, it has a way of tricking your body into everything's the same, nothing to see here, nothing to feel here, there's nothing off here. See, you still got some kratom, it's right at about the same amount that you had before. So your body does not go into complete haywire mode like it does if you're taking 20 grams per day and you just have the bright idea one day, I'm tired of this shit, I'm tired of this kratom, I just want to stop taking it. And then you wake up the very next day and you don't use any. And then people wonder why halfway through the day they're running to the kratom store to buy themselves another kratom product. Because they've put themselves in a cold turkey situation, which, listen, I'm not saying it's not doable. It absolutely is doable. I've done it. I've done a cold turkey withdrawal from MIT 45s before. And I shared that experience. But here's the kicker. At the time that I did that, I had been laid off from a job where I had been working for that company for 7 years. I was laid off from a job. I was not only laid off, but I was getting severance pay, which means even though I was off of work and I wasn't working, I was in the process of looking for another job, but I was doing that from home, on Indeed and LinkedIn and all that, trying to, find another job, but I was still getting paid for this job that I got laid off from, but I wasn't working every day, right? And I was getting paid for like 2 months, I think, after getting laid off from that job, but I didn't have to be at work every day, right? Ding, 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 ding. That's when the bells went off in my head. I'm like, you've been wanting to come off of this kratom. This is a good time to do it. You don't have any response. My son, River, my 9-month-old, he's almost 10 now, he had not been born at that time, so we didn't have a baby in the picture. All we had was a couple of pets. I didn't have a daytime job that I had to go to. This was even before my eldest son was living with me. This was back in 2019, maybe 2020, something like that. And so it was one of those things where I did a cold turkey, and it sucked really bad, and I did not sleep for 2 weeks, literally. And it was a bad deal, man. It wasn't bad as Percocets, that I went through probably 20 years ago back in the day. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that extreme. But it ain't no walk in the park either, right? So depending on what area of life you were in or what season of life you were in, you can do a cold turkey. And you may be looking at me right now and you're like, nah, dude, I'd rather just rip the Band-Aid off, get this shit over with. I know it's gonna suck, but you know, I don't have a lot of responsibilities. I don't have a spouse. I don't have, you know, I'm not working right now, or you know, I'm working at night, or you know, or if you're just one of those people, you can just sack up and push through it. I mean, maybe you can. Maybe you have a job, kids, and all kinds of responsibilities, and you're still one of those people like, fuck it. It hurts. It is what it is. I got myself into it. I need to have a little, you know, I need to put my fucking armor on and be like, hey, you did this to yourself. It's going to hurt for a little while. It's going to be uncomfortable, but it's going to get better eventually. You know, just hang in there and just, like, you know, cyborg through it. One foot in front of the other. Just go into autopilot mode and just fucking do your thing every day, even though it hurts, you know. That's a possibility too. But, you know, everybody has different tolerance levels, no pun intended, tolerance levels for this sort of discomfort that an opiate withdrawal can cause you, right? Some people are a little tougher as individuals. I find myself to be tougher than some people, but you know, but probably because I exercise, probably my exercise and my martial arts background. You know, I've been uncomfortable before physically with those things, and challenging myself physically in that way. I've done half marathons. I've run half marathons with weighted vests on before. So I'm one of those people that, you know, I have some level of comfort with discomfort, right? But there's people that are way more equipped from it than I am. You know what I mean? I imagine if somebody like David Goggins had to go through some sort of opiate withdrawal, he'd just be like, kick the withdrawal right in the teeth. It would be no big deal for him, because, you know, this guy lives there on a daily basis. He lives in that realm of like being in a dark place, you know, mentally, and putting yourself in a dark place mentally and physically to overcome these, you know, seemingly insurmountable physical and mental challenges. You know, he's one of those guys that he's there all the time. He lives there. So for somebody like him, you know, fortunately for him, he doesn't have to deal with this. He's not an addict. But if he were, and if he found himself addicted to something like that, he would probably be the kind of guy that would just fucking cold turkey it. Fuck it. You know, it's gonna hurt, you know, but it is what it is. But it depends on your schedule, depends on what you have going on in life, whether you're really able to do something like that, right? Now, for me currently, the reason I'm doing a slow taper is because I just have too much shit going on. That's bothering me. I just have too much shit going on in life, you know, for just a complete, total, and utter disruption of my life with full-on withdrawal right now. Just can't do that. What I do like about getting down to the amount that I am now, 10 grams, that's not that much. I know that I could go cold turkey off of 10 grams, and I could probably be past it in 7 days. The physical part. I could probably be completely past it in 7 days. Because like I said, I exercise a whole lot. I drink a bunch of water too. So I'm constantly kind of flushing out and replenishing my system as a person who eats really healthy, really high fibrous foods, drink tons of water, exercises. You know, I feel like my metabolism's probably pretty good for a person my age. So with that, I think that 10 grams a day, I think I'm only maybe a stone's throw away from being able to just get off of it completely. I like that. I like that a lot better than being at 40, 50 grams per day, because at 40, 50 grams a day, you've got a decent road in front of you to get off, right? Unless you're just going to be one of those people to say fuck it and just go all in, you know, throw all your chips in on the table and be like, look, I'm just going to bet on myself that I can do it, that I can go through it. And listen, you can. I've survived, you know, a few opiate withdrawals in my life. One of them, like I said, from a high amount of Percocets when I was 20 years old, not 20 years old, but 20 years ago. I would have been in my 20s at that time. And guess what? I had no medical intervention. And I really didn't take anything. I didn't really even take any supplements. I just exercised. I just sucked it up and went through it every day. And it was an absolute nightmare. But you know what? After a couple of weeks, and then 3 weeks, and then 4 weeks, it kind of, the discomfort and the negative feelings kind of started to melt away a little bit. And then eventually I was just like, what Percocets? And I will say, with the whole Kratom thing, that is one thing that when I was off for the 30 days, when I was off for the 40 days, I really did look forward to not having to worry about it. And knowing that when I laid down at night, I was going to be able to fall asleep in a normal sort of fashion, and I wasn't going to have to get up and take X, Y, or Z to keep myself sleeping or to keep myself from feeling extremely uncomfortable. I remember waking up in the morning much more refreshed because, my sleep wasn't all jacked up from what the Kratom does to you, or also when you're coming off of it. I remember that being a thing. So there are definitely some good things about to be said about just completely coming off of it, right? And I may do that, but I'm not going to rush myself. I've got the biggest promotion of my life and job of my life starting on the 18th, about a week and a half from now. So, I'm not going to be off of Kratom by then, and I'm not looking to be off of Kratom by then. I need to be, I don't need to be in any state of withdrawal when that happens, put it that way. It's going to be a lot of responsibility. It's a blessing all at the same time. But once I get in there and once I kind of start getting settled, I do plan to still keep chipping away. And they're definitely, at some point, I'm already down to the bare bones. This morning, I took a little 2.5 gram scoop, 1 teaspoon, 1 level teaspoon of the cooking teaspoon. So I know for a fact it wasn't any more than about 2.5 grams. Took that this morning, took another 2.5 grams just a few minutes ago. So far, it's 12:30 right now. So far, I've only had 5 grams of Kratom today. Then when I go home tonight, I'll take a little bit larger dose. I'll take about a 4 grammer, and then I'll take maybe a gram right before I go to bed. That'll be my 10, right? So I'm already down to like the lower amounts. So it's getting to a point now where if I'm gonna take off any more, I'm just gonna start completely cutting out my morning dose or my afternoon dose. You see what I mean? So probably what I'll do next is cut out my afternoon dose, and I might just take a little bit in the morning and have it with my coffee to kind of get myself going a little bit, especially for my new job. And then I just won't take any throughout the day, and then I'll just take it. Because like I said, I'm getting to the point now where there's really nowhere to go but up, and if you go down anymore, like, you're just going to be skipping doses altogether, and that's the part that's hard. I'm not sure if I'm ready for that, because I do like dosing on Kratom. I love the effects of it, but I love the effects of it much more when you're in the whole less is more sort of zone with Kratom, right? Because more is not more with Kratom, and it actually can cause you to be sedated, tired, definitely irritable. I find that I get more of what the actual benefits of Kratom are when I do it at the lower amounts. And lastly, the sex drive thing. That's one of the reasons that I definitely am considering coming completely off. I'm only on 10 grams right now. Now, granted, I've got a lot going on in life. I get that. I'm also a 47-year-old man, so I understand my testosterone is not going to be through the roof right now, but I've had hardly any return of my sex drive so far. And I'm only on 10 grams, so I haven't been taking that much. Some of that could just be everything I've got going on in my life, having a baby, doing a new job. It's just everything, a very busy person. It could be just some of that going on, very possible. But I did notice the couple of times that I came completely off of Kratom, it wasn't long before the sex drive came roaring back. There is definitely something to be said about how Kratom affects your sex drive. It definitely affects your libido or your sex drive in a negative way. It always has for me. All right, so that's another reason that I would like to get off of it, because damn, man, sex is good, you know? Sex is good. That's a good thing. And you know, I have no desire to do it. That's a shame, man. My wife's hot, too. But anyway, I gotta go. I love y'all. Have a great day. Subscribe to the channel if you've not.